Chapter 1041, The Six Families' Cooperation. As Tang Wei took Tian Xiaoming away, Tang Xiu came to the backyard alone. He met several acquaintances on the way here, such as the Guangyang province's Bai family's patriarch, the Fukang province's Huang family's patriarch, and several familiar faces he knew in the business community. Certainly, there was also someone that made him feel interested, which was his future father-in-law, Mu Jianhua. After greeting them and exchanging some pleasantries, Tang Xiu came to the main room and saw his grandfather, Tang Guisheng, accompanying several old men. He immediately came over and greeted. "Everything has been solved, grandfather." "That's great. I heard from Duan Mulin that your performance was great this time too, kid," said Tang Guisheng happily. "Anyways, come here. I'll introduce you to these elders. Chu Heng, the patriarch of the Chu family. Song Gang, the Song family's patriarch. Mu Hongtao, the Mu family's patriarch. Bai Yichen, the Bai family's patriarch. And lastly, Li Shirong, the Li family's patriarch." After Tang Xiu greeted each and every one of them, he then smilingly said, "Grandpa, please talk amongst yourselves first. I haven't greeted Grandma yet, and I must go outside to welcome guests as well." "You're exempted from receiving guests, Xiu. Yunpeng and Yunqing are enough to handle it." Tang Guisheng waved and said, "Anyways, we have some issues to discuss here, and the elders want to talk to you as well." After hearing this, Tang Xiu pulled a bench and took a seat next to Tang Guisheng. Then, he curiously asked, "What's the issue, though?" Tang Guisheng exchanged glances with the other old men and said, "There's a big project planned in the country recently, which is the opening and development of the Mang city in the western region. This is a big project with a total investment exceeding 100 billion yuan, and it could exceed hundreds of billions of yuan should there be any unforeseen events. No matter how good the national policy is, the country can't afford the funds needed. Therefore, it's been decided that a national tender for it is going to be carried out. We've just discussed it and we hope to obtain the right to develop it. But there's something I want to know first, Grandpa." Tang Xiu furrowed his brows and asked, "What is there that makes Mang City worth developing?" "There are three aspects." Tang Guisheng began explaining. "First, the Mang City's geographical position is very special. It's at the junction point of the three western provinces. If it can be transformed into a real metropolis, the country will invest some funds to build road connections that fully connect it to the three provinces. Second, there will definitely be an important tourist area in the country later since the place itself has an excellent natural environment, with a large number of state-protected animal species. It will, therefore, attract a lot of domestic and foreign tourists, which in itself is worth the development. And the third?" Tang Guisheng paused explaining as he got to that point. Wearing a curious look, Tang Xiu felt that the first two reasons were somehow a bit forced. After all, for an investment project exceeding 100 billion yuan or even hundreds of billions, these two reasons were far from enough. After he gave it some thought, he asked, "What's the third reason?" "It's due to mineral deposits," said Tang Guisheng. "A huge copper deposit was recently discovered in the mountain near Mang City. The country will soon build a mine to exploit the copper deposit there. By then, the number of residents will substantially increase, and it will qualify to be a big city." "A copper mine?" A surprised look appeared on Tang Xiu's face. Should the mineral deposit really that huge, the mining would indeed need a large number of workers, and they would even move their families there, while the development of the city would also attract more people to settle there. Suddenly, Tang Xiu noticed other issues as he looked up and asked, "May I know the current participants or the leader of this Mang City project?" Tang Guisheng exchanged glances with the other five old men and all of them nodded with smiles on their faces. The former then chuckled and smiled. "It's the Mu family, Mu Xinfeng." Tang Xiu instantly understood as he cast his eyes at Mu Hongtao, the Mu family's patriarch. He finally understood why Mu Hongtao was qualified to sit here today. It must be noted that this family was not on par with neither the Chus, Songs, Beis, or Lis. Frankly speaking, the Mu family paled in comparison with each of these families. The investment for this project is rather big, and a serious loss problem would definitely arise should there be mismanagement. However, since the 6 major families have agreed to cooperate, I think we can avoid this situation. There are 2 other issues I'm most concerned about, however. But if we can tackle them, we can expect the project to progress smoothly. Can you tell us what those 2 issues are? Tang Xiu asked Mu Hongtao. Firstly, who will be the leader of the 6 major families union? And how much funds can the 6 families afford to provide, said Tang Xiu with a stern face. The leader of the partnership? Tang Guisheng and the 5 other elders exchanged dismayed glances. After a long period of time, Mu Hongtao then broke the ice. I won't have any problem if the Tang family takes the leader position, though. The other 4 family patriarchs thought for a while and then nodded in approval one after another. The Tangs had been rising into prominence recently and would soon become the most powerful family in the whole of China. It was indeed acceptable to let the Tang family lead. A satisfied look flashed across Tang Guisheng's squinted eyes. He then spread out his hands and chuckled. That child, Tang Dong, has amassed quite the experience after so many years, so he should be able to preside over this issue. However, I'm sure everyone understands the circumstances of my Tang family. We have limited funds at hand at the moment. The Muse can provide 20 billion yuan in a month. More than that, I'm afraid it will affect our other businesses, said Mu Hongtao. You can also expect 20 billion yuan in a month from the Chus, added Chu Heng, the Chu family's patriarch. We can still provide 20 billion yuan more if the funds are insufficient for later development, but we'll also face difficulties if it's more than that. It's the same with us, added by Yi Chen. Mine too, replied Song Gang, the Song family's patriarch. I concur with everyone else, said Li Shurong, the Li family's patriarch, added smilingly. Each of the 5 families has taken out 20 billion yuan, so the total is 100 billion. But since our Tang family is taking the leadership of this project, then we'll provide 40 billion yuan, which adds up to 140 billion. This figure may seem like a lot, but developing a city will require more than that. However, we'll also have continuous income after the development is carried out, so the following construction plan should be guaranteed. Should the late stage of development be underfunded, each family can add additional funds to adjust the proportion of the profit share. Grandpa, I'll take out 40 billion yuan. I'll tell someone to transfer the money to you later. Tang Guisheng let out a satisfied smile and nodded. Transfer it to Tang Dong directly. But he will have the authority to deal with the Mang city's investment. Understood, replied Tang Xiu with a nod. The other 5 family patriarchs were shocked. They never thought that Tang Xiu could actually provide 40 billion yuan. Everyone knew that Tang Xiu's magnificent Tang Corporation had been established for less than 2 years. Added with its rapid development and growth, his company has been burning its capital, especially with the construction of its own industrial park in Shanghai. 40 billion. It was an amount each family could also provide, yet it would also slightly affect their cash flow. If they had to cough up more capital than that, they may even fracture. At this moment, only then did they realize why did Tang Guisheng decide to wait until Tang Xiu arrived to discuss the Mang City issue. They now understood why Tang Xiu could participate in this issue. It was because Tang Xiu had the capital and wealth. Mu Hongtao grinningly said, well, it seems like my granddaughter has found a man with a good future. Tang Xiu, come visit my family more if you got time later. You and Weining are not too young anymore, and I think you should plan your wedding date. Though it's also fine if you two get engaged first if you think it's too early. What an old fox. The other patriarchs cursed inwardly. Mu Weining was famous as the first belle in the capital and they had heard about it too. For her to be Tang Xiu's lover made them somewhat envious. They secretly sighed inwardly as to why they didn't have a granddaughter that could become the first belle of Beijing, and otherwise, they could marry her to the Tang family, or better, have Tang Xiu as their granddaughter's husband. Tang Xiu didn't want to participate in the discussion of the following steps of the cooperation content and details. Although Tang Guisheng usually valued his opinions, he didn't have any concern about this issue. It had been a few days after he left the Nine Dragons Island. Although Moa updated him every day, he still wanted to rush back to Nine Dragons Island to solve the problems there as fast as possible. However, he was also afraid that he would likely be dirt poor after taking out 40 billion yuan. Despite his recent excellent income, be it from Kong Xia who sent him the profits from the new metro of Star City, or the money he earned from selling medicinal pills, all the money he earned previously added together could only barely make up 40 billion yuan. After leaving, Tang Xiu turned to the side room and saw a group of women there laughing and joking around his grandmother, Qin Chongyu. A smile suddenly appeared on his face as he greeted several familiar elders and nodded to the unfamiliar ones. Then, his eyes fell on Mu Weining. Tang Xiu called out Mu Weining with a happy and surprised face immediately after she saw him. "Anything interesting you talked about with Grandma?" asked Tang Xiu smilingly. A flash of shyness flashed across Mu Weining's eyes as she whispered, "I didn't say anything and just accompanied Grandma to chat about the family's daily lives, you know." "You easily got shy, Weining girl." Qin Chongyu smilingly said, "I just told her that you and Weining are no longer that young, Xiu. It's time for you both to consider marriage. I just spoke to your mother about it. Even if you still have to finish your studies, it's fine for at least to get a wedding first, no? Besides, this old lady can't wait to hold her great-grandson." Tang Xiu let out a few dry chuckles and perfunctorily replied, "I'll give you a letter of approval for the engagement later, Grandma. But well, there are things I still need to tend to out there, so I'll take Weining out first. Please continue your chat, Grandma." How could Qin Shengyun not able to see Tang Xiu being perfunctory? She shook her head and spoke to the nearby Su Lingyun with a smile, "Lingyun, you must convince Xiu that he's no longer a young boy, got it? Don't tell me you're not anxious to hug a chubby grandson yourself." "I know that, Mom." "That's for sure," replied Su Lingyun with a smile. After taking Mu Weining out of the wing room, only then did Tang Xiu sigh in relief and smilingly said, "Don't listen to the drivel of those elderlies, got it? Besides, we got too many things at hand at this moment, so the marriage must wait. But if they keep pushing it, let's just find the time to get engaged and do the formal ceremony first. What do you think?" "Well, I'll just listen to you about that." Mu Weining chuckled. Chapter 1042, Getting Bullied? Tang Xiu reached out to grab Mu Weining's fragrant shoulder, simply ignoring the eyes of many people around them as he smilingly said, "You have nothing to do this moment, right? If you're free, can you help me to take care of someone? I feel a bit uneasy giving her to that Tang Wei fella." Mu Weining was confused and asked, "Who's this person though?" "Well, she's kinda the essence of disaster," said Tang Xiu with a helpless face. "She's a Star City's local. That girl did a live broadcast when I gave treatment at the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, exposing my face to the public. I became acquainted with her after I asked for her help to broadcast the situation with the Star City Welfare House then. Ultimately, this girl just stirred up troubles. You have heard about the major cases occurred in the capital in the last 2 days, right?" Mu Weining blinked and immediately said smilingly, "I know who she is. Isn't she that cute anchor, Meng Meng?" "Sure enough. You also watched that live broadcast?" Tang Xiu forced a wry smile and said, "That's right, that's the work of this epitome of disaster maker. I really never thought that she dared to broadcast this case until those evil guys had been dealt with. It was already too late when I found her doing it, so after she was taken away by the security department, I went over to take her out. But well, she probably got frightened too much and don't want to go back to Star City by herself and insisted to came with me, hence why I took her here.
Ah.
So it was a hero saving a damsel in distress then, commented Mu Weining with an odd expression. Did she fall for you perchance? I would be a god if I had such a great charm, you know, shot Tang Xiu back smilingly. Anyways, she's very young and has a pure mind. I just met her a few times, so anything like falling for me is out of the question. I would have driven her back to Star City if it wasn't for the fact that she has helped me with the welfare house issue in Star City. Mu Weining just chuckled in response and said, well, where's she then? I'm going to look for her. I'll take you to her. She's with Tang Wei, said Tang Xiu. At the other pavilion. Looking anxious and restless, Tian Xiaoming closely followed Tang Wei, looking somewhat like a panda being watched by the crowd. Although she was of similar age with some of the males and females in the surroundings, with some being older or younger than her, she almost had the impulse to run away after looking at the unusual bearing possessed by these young ladies and scions. Furthermore, after she had a brief exchange with Tang Wei, she finally learned one thing: Tang Xiu's grandfather was Tang Guisheng, the former national figure, a real big figure in the truest sense. Even Tang Xiu's uncles who were not high-ranking officials were also top brasses in the military, much to her incessant restlessness. However, she also realized that she didn't have any repelling feeling after learning Tang Xiu's real identity whatsoever. Rather, she worshipped him more. She had been having erroneous assumptions that all those scions, offspring of official as well as the second generation of the haves, were just a bunch of silk pants, who had no real abilities and nothing but finely-looking cases but were empty inside. But Tang Xiu, he was worlds apart from them. He had extreme expertise in Chinese medicine and could be compared to Bian Ke and Hua Tuo, the divine doctors in ancient times. Further, he also found the magnificent Tang Corporation, such a super company by himself. Did young Master Tang Xiu bring you here? A girl in a long gown with an attractive chignon hairdo asked with rounded eyes. Although being very nervous, Tian Xiaoming nodded and said,
Yeah.
Tang Xiu brought me here. The girl looked a bit envious and said, I really didn't expect that Tang Xiu would bring you here. But I heard that his fiancé is Mu Weining though. How come? Tang Wei stared at her and interjected. Spare the nonsense, will you? Mu Weining is indeed Tang Xiu's girlfriend, and this Xiaoming is his friend, a good friend. You'd better not be that mindful over this, girls. No matter what the means and how wishful you are to pursue my good brother, I firmly believe that there's no unmovable wall in the world and no unhookable boyfriend for you all. Are you looking for a beating, brat? Tang Ying raised her fist and menacingly smiled. Weining is my bosom friend, yet you dare to instigate everyone to seduce her boyfriend? Just wait until I tell Weining everything you just said, so she'll remember you every time you see her.
Ugh.
No. Don't. With a begging for mercy face, Tang Wei cupped his fists and pleaded. Please forget what I just said, big sis. If after some time Weining really marries Tang Xiu, then she'll become my sis-in-law, the true one. I'll be damned and eat bitter fruits if she remembers it then. After listening to Tang Wei and Tang Ying's dialogues, Tian Xiaoming curiously said, You said Tang Xiu already has a girlfriend? Is his girlfriend very outstanding? In a flash, tens of young men and women present all stared at Tian Xiaoming. The whole place turned silent as their eyes landed at Tian Xiaoming like they were seeing a monster. Outstanding, meaning? They were all scions of notable and prominent families. Each and every one of them thought highly of themselves for being excellent and whatnot. And yet, comparing themselves with Mu Weining, the latter was definitely more excellent than them. Be it her education, appearance, stature, and bearings. To hail Mu Weining as a woman who deserved the first Belle of Beijing title was not an understatement. Tian Xiaoming's eyes went wide as she muttered with a confused expression, Did I say something wrong? Tang Xiu is a very outstanding man to me. He's much better than any young man, But no girl is worthy of him if she's not as excellent as him. Xiaoming, then, do you think you're worthy to be with Tang Xiu? Asked Tang Wei with a strange smirk. Suddenly, everyone else also wore strange smiles. Without even thinking, Tian Xiaoming shook her head. I never thought I'm worthy enough to be with him. Tang Xiu is just like the sun, whereas I'm like a star in the sky. How can the speck of starlight match the brilliance of the sun? How can I be worthy of him?
Ah.
Everyone around inhaled a long breath of relief. They previously thought that this girl wasn't able to measure herself well. Tian Xiaoming's pure and simple bearing was much to Tang Ying's liking. She paced forward and pulled her hands, saying, You're my little brother, Tang Xiu's friend, Xiaoming, so you're Tang Ying's friend too. Just tell me whoever dares to bully you, Sis Ying will definitely make them pay you back. Tian Xiaoming already knew Tang Ying's identity now and felt very flattered. She didn't expect that Tang Ying would act normally, unlike those young ladies, and was approachable instead. After hurriedly nodding, she said, Thank you, Sis Ying. You're just like Tang Xiu. Both of you are good persons. Pfft. Tang Ying couldn't help giggling and then said, Well, Lil Sis Xiaoming. Don't label me as a good person, alright? Anyways, where did Tang Xiu go? Why don't I see him here with you? He went to see Grandpa, Big Sis. Tang Wei took the opportunity to interject. It seems that there's something they need to discuss. After a short while, Tang Xiu led Mu Weining into the pavilion. After seeing Tian Xiaoming with Tang Ying, he smiled and paced forward, saying, You already got acquainted with Xiaoming, Sis Ying? This girl is kinda timid, so don't make fun of her. No worries. How can I scare her? It's too late since I already protect her now, Tang Ying smilingly replied. Anyways, what are you two doing here while holding hands, though? Are you showing off your love or something? Tang Xiu let out a dry laugh in response. At this time, Tian Xiaoming's eyes went saucer, looking at Mu Weining whose hand was pulled by Tang Xiu's. At this moment, only then did she realize how stupid she was before. Sparing the talents and abilities of this girl, just her appearance, figure, and bearing was all one in the billions. She had never seen anyone like her in real life, but who else could compare with her? She was beautiful, too beautiful. Even if she was a girl herself, she knew that she felt attracted by Mu Weining. It was a feeling that made her heart thump faster and harder. Mu Weining came toward Tian Xiaoming, stretched out her hand and smilingly said, Hello, I'm Mu Weining, Tang Xiu's girlfriend. You're Xiaoming, right? Tang Xiu just told me about your situation. But I'm glad that you came to attend Grandpa's 80th birthday. Instead of answering, Tian Xiaoming gulped and murmured stutteringly, You're. Hello, I am Tian Xiaoming. I'm. No. I'm glad to be able to attend Grandpa Tang's 80th birthday. Big Sis Weining, you're so beautiful, so gorgeous, the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Mu Weining's eyes curved in happiness. She turned to glance at Tang Xiu and kindly took Tian Xiaoming's hand and smilingly said, I like you too. You're Tang Xiu's friend, so you're my friend as well. I hope you can treat me as a friend too later. Tian Xiaoming's small head nodded repeatedly like a pecking chicken. She then excitedly replied, I'll definitely treat you as a good friend, Big Sis Weining. Count me in too. Tang Ying interjected with a smile. Tang Xiu, who stood at the side, just watched the girls merrily laugh and talk. He immediately smiled and said, Well, Sis Ying, Weining, are you two free this afternoon? Mu Weining shook her head, whereas Tang Ying straightly asked, I have nothing to do. What's up, you got something for us? Since you're free, can you accompany Xiaoming to the TV station? Tang Xiu asked with a smile. She kinda has a talk show this afternoon. No, there's no need. Tian Xiaoming suddenly spoke. The program manager wasn't able to contact me yesterday, so when I just called them, he said that he has already put me off the list. Tang Ying frowned and resentfully said, "Don't worry about it, Xiaoming. The TV station said that you're off the list, huh? Just wait here, I'll call them. I'll make sure to have all the interviewees gone and they will just interview you alone. Gimme their number, quickly." Lips twitching, Tian Xiaoming stutteringly replied. Sissing, there's no need to go that far, alright? Besides, it doesn't matter if I don't partake in it either. That's why your character will make you easily be bullied, Xiaoming. Tang Ying cut off. You told us that you came to the capital from Star City to get interviewed, but they just kicked you out because they couldn't contact you yesterday. That's simply bullying to me. Just trust me and give me the number. Tian Xiaoming shot a look at Tang Xiu, looking somewhat embarrassed and awkward. Since Sissing wants to stand up for you, just give her their phone number, said Tang Xiu with a smile. Besides, it's the program you want to take part in, right? Since you're invited, don't let your trip to Beijing be in vain. However, remember to not speak carelessly there, though. Especially what happened in the last 2 days. Chapter 1043, Praises. After chatting with the guests, Tang Xiu left since he still had some things to do. When he was just at the door, he happened to see Qin Ling coming over, eyes glancing around as if he was looking for someone. Hey, dude. You turn out to be here. Upon seeing Tang Xiu, Qin Ling's eyes lit up as he called out and strode over. Have you been looking for me? Asked Tang Xiu with a smile. Is there something up? Nothing serious. It's just that I only saw a few familiar faces here, said Qin Ling smilingly. I told you that we're fated since we met outside, didn't I? Besides, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. Don't look down on him, though. My friend's identity is kinda unusual. Care to tell who this friend of yours is? Asked Tang Xiu smilingly. Looking a bit proud, Qin Ling reached out to grab Tang Xiu's hand and pulled him to the courtyard. His eyes then glanced around. As he saw Tang Wei's figure, he looked a bit excited and said, Well, I'm a friend of the Tang family's scion, the famous young master Tang Wei. I used to entertain him back when he visited Beihu province. Well, I also know him, though, said Tang Xiu smilingly. Qin Ling stared blankly and his pace suddenly slowed down a lot, asking in surprise, You also know him? That's right. I forgot to ask you. What does your family do? Some of them are government officials and some are business people, said Tang Xiu with a chuckle. For you to come here means that your family should be very powerful indeed. Qin Ling nodded and said, Anyways, I did feel that you're familiar with that brother of mine. But it doesn't matter since we'll be friends later. At this moment, Tang Wei had also seen Tang Xiu and Qin Ling. There was a bit of curiosity on his face as he inquired after greeting them. How did you two get together here, guys? Were you acquainted before? Young Master Tang, I just met Brother Tang Xiu outside today, said Qin Ling hurriedly. I think he's a good man, so I want to introduce him to you. I just didn't expect to hear from him that he already knows you. Pfft. Tang Wei couldn't help laughing and pointed to Tang Xiu while saying smilingly, Qin Ling, don't tell me you really don't know who he is? Qin Ling shook his head and replied with a confused face, I just feel that he's a bit familiar, but I really don't know who he is. Young Master Tang, you. Given our age, he's my younger brother. But if you count his abilities, he's my big brother. Tang Wei interrupted him and smilingly said, To think that you've never even heard of the Tang family's young master Tang Xiu is quite unexpected, you know. Haven't many news about him been spread out lately? Tang Xiu? As in Tang Xiu of the Tang family? Qin Ling was stunned and dumbfounded. His pupils contracted and disbelief filled his eyes. He finally recalled why he felt that he had seen Tang Xiu before and why his face felt somewhat familiar. It turned out that he was the famous Tang Xiu of the Tang family. That's true. He was also the famous young divine doctor and the magnificent Tang Corporation's owner, Tang Xiu. Damn it. I just met God. Qin Ling groaned inwardly. He finally realized why the guards didn't check Tang Xiu's credentials when he came in before. It turned out that he was a member of the Tang family. Feeling awkward and embarrassed at this moment, Qin Ling wanted to find a hole to burrow himself into. It was really a shame, big time. Wasn't it so stupid of him to introduce him to his own brother? Tang Xiu just let out a faint smile watching Qin Ling's awkward face. He patted his shoulder and smilingly said, "It was my fault to make things so vague, so I made brother Qin Ling misunderstand. Brother Wei, you got a good man as a brother, so treat him well now that he has visited our home. I'm going outside since first uncle and Uncle Yunqing called me to greet the guests." Roger that. Tang Wei grinned and laughed. He then hugged Qin Ling's shoulder, taking him to the inside and smilingly speaking, "That was a surprise mishap, don't you think? But you're really lucky, boy." I don't need to speak about Tang Xiu's ability, especially when it comes to reading people, since his insight is especially accurate. He said that you're a good man, so I'll make it up to you as your buddy. Let's stroll around, I'll introduce you to some friends. Upon hearing his words, Qin Ling immediately felt a bit excited inwardly. He didn't expect that such an unexpected mishap would relate him to Tang Xiu, even earning him Tang Wei's approval. He was crystal clear about Tang Wei's personality as someone whose eyes always looked at the top, thus making him quite difficult to approach. It was truly his good luck to get his recognition. A few minutes later, after Tang Xiu appeared outside the gate of the courtyard, he saw his first uncle, Tang Yunpeng, and his other uncle, Tang Yunqing, greeting the guests. He then went towards them after nodding at the unfamiliar guests. Tang Yunpeng, who was welcoming the guests into the house, shot a meaningful glance at Tang Xiu and asked, "You have met with the old patriarch and discussed some interesting issues, right?" Tang Xiu understood his meaning and noddingly said,
Yeah.
"We had some discussions about it. The Tang family's patriarch will take the leader position, though Uncle Tang Dong will be very busy later. As for the funds, I'll provide 40 billion yuan, so it should be enough for the early stage." Tang Yunping's eyes lit up and he praised with a thumbs up. "To think that you'll take out 40 billion yuan, you're so filthy rich, nephew. But who raised the leadership issue, though?" "Well, none of those elderly wanted to raise it up, which I think they must feel that it's not appropriate on everyone's faces. Hence why I straightly raised up the issue," said Tang Xiu smilingly. "If anything, I'm just a junior, so it wasn't a problem no matter how inconvenient it was." "Wisdom is indeed the most powerful force," sighed Tang Yunpeng in praise. "I really can't figure out how deep your brain is, kid. Anyways, you've made great contributions to our family. What rewards do you want? Uncle will do everything possible to make it up to you." "Reward? No need for that, uncle," replied Tang Xiu smilingly. "Only, I'll be leaving the capital when Grandpa's birthday party is over. I'm going abroad to deal with something after dropping by in Star City first." "I heard you've been busy with things abroad recently. What have you been busy with, exactly?" asked Tang Yunpeng curiously. "My men have had conflicts with some foreign cultivation forces and will be engaged in brutal fights soon," said Tang Xiu. "Should we end up the victors this time, those cultivation forces will never dare to provoke us again. But we'll suffer big losses if we lose." "Cultivation forces?" Tang Yunpeng and Tang Yunqing's complexions changed and turned solemn instantly. "Is there anything we can do, Tang Xiu?" asked Tang Yunpeng in a deep voice. "The Tang family has its own armed force. Though it's not that strong, we still have numbers on our side. Just tell us if you ever need manpower. It's no big deal for us to fill in with our lives, as long as we can wipe out all the enemies." The strength of these cultivators is not something that can be defeated by numbers, uncles. Tang Xiu shook his head and said, but please, don't worry. I won't send my men to fight them if I don't have the absolute assurance of winning. Rather, I'm planning to use these cultivation forces experts to train my men. Tang Yunpeng and Tang Yunqing exchanged glances, and there was a strange look in their eyes. After some time, the former said again, I'd like to see the people you've been training if you got some time, Xiu. It's fine, but we can't go there for the time being. Tang Xiu nodded and explained, wait until we've taken care of the things over there, then you can visit the place. Else I can't guarantee your safety. I understand. Tang Yunpeng nodded and said, besides, I need to apply to the top leaders above if I want to go abroad given my current identity. It would be quite difficult to go abroad shortly regardless. Shortly after, Tang Xiu accompanied Tang Yunpeng and Tang Yunqing to welcome the guests. There were many guests who came to celebrate Tang Guixing's 80th birthday since he was also the old patriarch of the Tang family. It was also the reason for those who even had a bit of qualification to do everything they could to attend it. As noon approached, Tang Yunpeng and Tang Yunqing returned to Central Pavilion, while Tang Xiu took a stroll outside with hands in his pockets. He needed to observe the situation in the surroundings. He planned to go inside and partake in his grandfather's celebration banquet if there wasn't any problem. Ever since the Yaos had been destroyed by him, he was crystal clear that there would be other prominent families that would become potential enemies. The scenery in front of the Tang family may look beautiful, but no one knew how many potential menaces were hidden behind it. Nothing special happened, asked Tang Xiu while casting his gaze at Tang Hu, who was responsible for security issues. This man was an outstanding talent trained by Tang Guixing. Although he didn't have the Tang family's blood, he had been following Tang Guixing ever since he was a child, and his loyalty toward the Tang house was unquestionable. Tang Hu shook his head and answered, there's nothing. All the guests that met the entry criteria have all gone inside, and those who don't have left. What's with this criterion though? Tang Xiu stared blankly and asked with a confused face, you mean, those who came to congratulate Grandpa's birthday have unusual identities? That's correct. Except there's this old beggar, said Tang Hu. An old beggar? Tang Xiu's face slightly shifted and he asked again, where's him? Tang Hu pointed to the alley mouth in the distance and said, I just left that spot 40 minutes ago. He should have left by now. Nodding in response, Tang Xiu then strode to the alley mouth. His complexion suddenly shifted as he cast his sight to the road dozens of meters away. There was an old man with ragged clothes and a 5+ years old girl sitting quietly next to him. After walking over to them, Tang Xiu looked at the old man and the little girl. He immediately furrowed his brows and said, Old man, are you here for the birthday party? The old man looked up and bitterly nodded. That's right. It's just unfortunate that I can't get in. Those who can attend the party, aside from the Tang family's relatives, are dignitaries and people with quite a status. Are you perhaps related to the Tang family, either related to their relatives or friends? The old man fell into silence for a moment. He then turned to look at the little girl a bit reluctantly before he nodded and said, I don't know whether I'm related in some way or not. But I do have a reason. Alas. It's for the sake of this child and a small wish that I'd like to see him. But I never thought. Tang Xiu's eyes swept over the several scars on the old man's neck and eventually stayed on his left cheek. Only then did he realize that this old man had lost his left ear. Further, he also noticed that this old man was emitting a death qi and was likely dying. Can you tell me your identity, elderly? I might be able to take you inside. Chapter 1044, As Close as Brothers. The old man looked surprised and observed Tang Xiu for a while. Then, he forced a smile and said, I followed the old leader for 13 years since I was 10 until I left due to a special reason when I was 23. Now I'm 73 years old, I never had seen him for 50 years. I don't even know if the old leader still remembers me. Is this old leader the person from the Tang family who is celebrating his birthday today? Asked Tang Xiu. The old man nodded in response. His slightly trembling hand pulled out a half-pack of crumpled cigarettes from his pocket and then fished out one from the inside. Just as he was about to lit it up, he suddenly seemed to recall something, secretly shook his head, and just looked at the cigarette in a daze. Not a word came out of his mouth as he seemed to be caught in a reverie of his past. Old man, I think I can guess something from you. But your present condition is likely not good, said Tang Xiu. The old man came back to his senses and looked up at Tang Xiu, replying helplessly, I know that I'm just halfway into my coffin with these last breaths of mine. That's right, little brother. If you could help me, please pass my words to the old leader. It's regretful that I can't see him ever again in this life, but please come with me, old man. I'll take you in. Tang Xiu interrupted him. The old man became stunned. He stood with difficulty and asked with full of expectation, You can really take us in? That's right, answered Tang Xiu. Tears overflowed from the old man's eyes. He hurriedly nodded and pulled the little girl up. Then, he said, Did you hear that? Grandpa's last wish and hope are still there. Supporting the old man, Tang Xiu didn't say anything and brought them into the interior of the courtyard under the watchful eyes of Tang Hu and many guards. Soon after, they came to the innermost part of the residence, garnering curious eyes from many people due to the old man's attire. Tang Guisheng, who was sitting in the room and chatting with several elderly people, suddenly saw his son, Tang Yunpeng, coming over from the outside. He smiled at him and asked, How is it outside, Yunpeng? Most of the guests have come, father, answered Tang Yunpeng. However, Xiu brought in an old man and a child from the outside. He said that this old man wants to see you. An old man and a child? Tang Guisheng was confused and asked, Do you know who the old man is? I don't know. But he looks like an ordinary old man given his clothes. Tang Yunpeng shook his head. Tang Guisheng thought about it before getting up and saying, There are always things that don't meet the eyes for everything Xiu does. Let's go and have a look since you don't know him then. Half a minute later, when Tang Guisheng passed through the door, his eyes fell on the old man several meters away. His eyes suddenly stared at him and observed the old man's facial features, whom he felt vaguely familiar, yet he couldn't remember who he was. You are... Tang Guisheng came towards the old man. He immediately felt confused upon seeing the latter's face that was full of excitement with 2 lines of tears trickling down his wrinkled face. The old man released himself from Tang Xiu's propping hands. He also loosened the little girl's hand. His body shivered as he paced 2 steps forward and kneeled down in front of Tang Guisheng under everyone's eyes. I can't accept it. Although Tang Guisheng couldn't recognize the old man in front, he still rushed to reach his hands out to prop him up. The old man avoided Tang Guisheng's hands and kept kneeling as he spoke with a choked voice, A brother is like a father. For being able to see the old leader before dying, Zicheng has no regrets left in this life anymore. Tang Guisheng's heart thumped as the softest spot in his heart seemed to be touched. His eyes went round all of a sudden with disbelief overflowing from within. Everyone present with keen eyes could see that his body was slightly trembling. You're Zicheng? Are you Sua Zicheng? The old man looked up with teary eyes and sobbed. You still remember me? Tang Guisheng suddenly squatted on the floor and hugged the old man with tears overflowing from his eyes. His voice quivered as he called out, are you really Zicheng? You. It's me. It's really me, cried the old man with a weeping voice. Tang Guisheng suddenly let go of the old man. He instantly stepped back with a teary face, staring at the old man and slapping his face in under everyone's watchful eyes. He pointed to his nose and angrily cursed. Where the fuck did you go to all these years, bastard? Speak. Tell me, where the hell have you been? In the west, Ugly Eye, replied the old man with a sob. Tang Guoxing's complexion turned pale like a sheet. He looked at the old man in disbelief, unable to hold back his flowing tears. He lunged toward him, hugged him again and sobbed. You bastard! Who told you to go back there? Who told you to stay guard there for this old man? Bastard! Do you know how hard I've been looking for you all these years? From south to north, from east to west, I've sent people to look for you, leaving nothing unturned in the whole of China, yet I could never find you. The old man's body suddenly trembled. A stream of blood flowed down from the corner of his mouth, though he seemed to be unaware of it. He shook his head and said, Zicheng has become a disabled man and no longer is able to protect you anymore. But Zicheng still remembers the land of Ugly Eye that has been stained with the blood of Yundi there. Yundi? At this moment, Tang Guoshou, Tang Guoxing, Tang Yunpeng, Tang Yunda, Tang Min, and even Tang Dong, Tang Yen, and Tang Yunqing in the yard looked surprised. Others may not know this name, but they were crystal clear who Yundi was. Especially Tang Guoshou, Tang Guoxing and Tang Yunpeng, whose fists were tightly clenched at this time. As a matter of fact, Tang Yunpeng was not the eldest son of Tang Guoxing. It was Tang Yundi. However, when the latter was just 7 years old, he died in the Battle of Ugly Eye in the west. Tang Guoxing and Zhuo Zicheng cried on each other's shoulders for a long time before eventually calming down. After Tang Guoxing helped Zhuo Zicheng up, he saw the blood in his mouth and his face suddenly changed. He turned to look at Tang Yunpeng and said, What are you gawking at? Find a doctor. Call all the doctors here quickly. Zhuo Zicheng shook his head and stopped him. His face was beaming with a smile instead as he said, Please don't bother to care about this tired old man by troubling the doctors, old leader. I'm crystal clear of my own condition. I'm already very content for being able to return to the capital and appear in front of you. How did you, said Tang Yunpeng hurriedly with shrinking pupils. My heart and lungs have been injured by that bastard, said Zhuo Zicheng with a smile. Not even an accomplished golden immortal will be able to save me. It was because of this child that I could persist and now I'm in front of you. Nyo, call him Grandpa, Grandpa Tang. The little girl cried out, Grandpa Tang. Tang Guoxing nodded at her and asked, Zicheng, this child is. Do you still remember Yundi's playmate, Little Ingzi, old leader? She's Little Ingzi's granddaughter, said Zhuo Zicheng. Her parents passed away when she was 2 years old and I've been taking care of her ever since. But I'm now dying and I'm really worried about this child. Could you take her in and raise her, old leader? A handsome face belonging to his son sprung up in Tang Guoxing's mind, along with his playmate, the little Ingzi. It had been many years and he didn't expect to see her descendants today. However, as he looked at the pleading face of Zhuo Zicheng, he shook his head and said, I can take care of this child, but I won't allow you to die. That's right, Xiao. Aren't you called a divine doctor? Save him. I want him to live. Tang Xiu sighed inwardly before shaking his head and replying, Grandpa's was 5 internal organs are failing. He has lost nearly half of his blood, cutting off his life force, and now is nearly replaced by a death chi. Even if I have a miraculous healing elixir, there's nothing I can do. Truth be told, the elderly must have used a forbidden art to support himself, hence why he can persist till now. Tang Guoxing's body shook. His eyes fell on Zhuo Zicheng's face and he hurriedly asked, Did you use that reanimate art? Didn't you know that you can no longer live once you use that power? I'd have died earlier if I didn't use it, said Zhuo Zicheng with a smile. That's where my life is supposed to be used, so please don't be sad, old leader. It's worth it since I can hand over this child into your care and I can say, goodbye, to you. Blood began flowing out of his mouth again during his speech. Tang Xiu himself was well aware that if this old man didn't see his grandfather and his emotions were not this agitated, he might still be able to live for another 10 days. But his current mood was really unstable, a condition he could no longer withstand. Suddenly, Qin Chengyu, who heard the disturbance from the outside, walked into the room. After she learned that the old man was Zhuo Zicheng, she cried again on his shoulder. In her heart, Zhuo Zicheng, who had followed them from the age of 10 and was just 6+ younger than them, was simply like their relative, as close as her blood brother. Now that she learned about Zhuo Zicheng's condition, especially knowing that they had been staying in Ugly Eye for so many years, she felt like there was a knife shearing her heart, making her cry bitter tears. Ultimately, the several elders gradually stabilized their emotions under Tang Yunpeng and Tang Yunqing's consolation. Zhuo Zicheng's eyes were full of tears, but his face was beaming with a smile. After loosening Tang Guixing's and Qin Chengyue's hands, he stepped back and said, "Please allow me to call you big brother and sister-in-law. Zicheng no longer has any lingering regrets after being able to see you again, big brother, sis-in-law. But I must leave now. I want to stay in Ugly Eye. And don't send me off, please. I hope I can meet you again in my next life." Having said that, he staggeringly paced forward to the outside step by step. Tang Guixing chased him for a few steps and shouted, "Zicheng." Zhuo Zicheng neither looked back nor stopped. He just left step by step without touching any food or drink. The old couple, Tang Guixing and Qin Chengyu, couldn't hold back their tears anymore. They wanted to stop Zhuo Zicheng, but they also could feel his determination. At this time, Tang Xiu spoke, Grandpa, please don't worry. I'll send some people to protect the elderly all the way to Ugly Eye. I'll also assign some men to help the elderly once he returns there, so he can spend his last days in peace until his departure. Chapter 1045, Rushing Toward Ugly. The birthday feast was held in the Quadrangle residence. It wasn't that extravagant, but the dishes were delicious, and the magnificent Tang Corporation provided God's nectar, so everyone could dine and drink to their heart's content. However, Tang Guixing's mood was extremely heavy. Although he could see his old brother again, knowing his condition rendered his mood particularly unconformable. Just as the birthday feast was about to come to an end, however, Tang Xiu received a sudden call that made his complexion drastically change. Tang Xiu quickly came to Tang Guixing and whispered, "I need to speak to you, Grandpa." Upon seeing his solemn expression, Tang Guixing suddenly frowned and asked, "What is it?" "There's an urgent situation and I must leave the capital at once," answered Tang Xiu. "Another incident?" "What is it?" asked Tang Guixing. "Terrifying fierce beasts appeared in the Himalayas," whispered Tang Xiu. "The location is very close to a small town called Ugly, and tens of thousands of its residents were attacked by them. Duanmu Lin told me on the phone that many residents have been killed and the town has become a ruin." Tang Guixing abruptly got up. Rays flashed across his eyes a few times as he lowered his voice and said, "Then hurry there at once and kill those beasts ASAP. Remember, ensure your safety. Your life is your first priority." Tang Xiu said with solemnity, "I will." Tang Guixing suddenly grabbed Tang Xiu's hand and hurriedly said, "Protect Zicheng, Xiu. He has risked his life and braved dangers with me in the past, saving my life countless times. I'd have died many times already if it wasn't for him. No matter how big the price is, I must guarantee his safety. Just let him die peacefully in his bed of old age." Tang Xiu nodded and said, "I will." Shortly after, Tang Xiu contacted the Tang sect's disciples who were sent out. The Tang family needed real experts to guard them, so he sent more than 10 disciples to guard the Tangs after he founded Tang sect. It was one of the tasks he assigned to them. "Stop that elderly and wait for me." After he hung up the phone, he hurriedly left in a rush with Tang 28's group of 5. When he arrived at the train station and saw Zhuo Zicheng's confused face, he forced a smile and said, "Grandpa Zhuo, it wasn't Granda who sent me here. But I received a notice that some fierce beasts have appeared in Ugly and killed a lot of people. It's my duty to go over there and eliminate them. It just so happens that you have to go back, elderly. So, we're going there together and take care of each other along the way. A bitter look appeared on Zhuo Zicheng's face as he sighed. Those fierce beasts are still rampaging, it seems. I already told everyone to move out quickly. I've even reminded the local authorities. It's just so unfortunate nobody listened to this old man's words. None of them believed me. You knew of the existence of these fierce beasts? Asked Tang Xiu hurriedly with a changed expression. Did those beasts cause you these injuries? It's far more than one beast. It's simply a nest of ominous beasts. Only that particular one is very powerful. I'd have already died if that one hit me. What injured me was a weaker one, though I was very fortunate to flee fast enough, so I survived. Grandpa Zhuo, please tell me the situation there, said Tang Xiu hurriedly. Ugly is located near the Himalayas. Zhuo Zicheng nodded and said, I've entered the Himalayas numerous times to get the snow lotus for many years. The last time I went there, I traversed deeper and found the nest of this ominous beast. The most savage and biggest beast was only as tall as 2 small buildings. It's a big monster, nonetheless. But there are countless of them. Though they are not as big, they are still fearsome. I was just on the periphery of their nest before one of them spotted and injured me. I see. Tang Xiu nodded and asked again, since there are so many beasts there, have they come out before? How come they came out of their nest now? I have no idea about the specific cause. Zhuo Zicheng sighed. But what I can be sure of is that the beasts seem to have been blocked by something and were unable to get out. Even the one who chased me before was blocked by a layer of invisible energy or something. However, those beasts kept hitting something like an obstruction I couldn't see. I think that's why they are now rushing outside. An array formation? Tang Xiu was shocked inwardly. Then, he said quickly, Grandpa Zhuo, this is an urgent situation, so we can't take the train there. I've already contacted an airline, so we'll go there by plane and then change into cars. Some people will aid us along the way. Obviously, Zhuo Zicheng also wanted to know the current situation in Ugly, so he nodded and said, we'll do as you said. After a full day passed by, Tang Xiu and the rest who rushed to catch up even asked the aid from the local garrison's military helicopter. They finally arrived at noon the next day to the town near the snow-capped peak of Himalayas. Ugly town. Heavens! How did it turn like this? After seeing the current situation in Ugly, Zhuo Zicheng's old face was full of disbelief. The town of Ugly had literally been turned into a ruin. All the soldiers and civilians who survived the rampaging beasts had been moved outside, while a garrison company had been stationed to defend it. Tang Xiu. 2 figures flickered from the distance and quickly appeared in front of Tang Xiu. It was Zhulong and Aquababe, whose faces were extremely solemn. Injuries were evident on their bodies with bloodstains that dyed their clothes red. How is the current situation here? Tang Xiu hurriedly asked, did you fight with those beasts? Miserable. It's literally miserable, said Zhulong with a bitter face. Just the current casualty statistic alone, thousands of people have been killed and thousands more have been injured. In addition, we've clashed with those beasts, but the situation is not optimistic. 4 of our colleagues from the Special Abilities Bureau have died in battle and dozens of others are injured. What about their numbers? How many beasts are there? Asked Tang Xiu. We have no clue. The number of beasts that have appeared is as high as 1,000, answered Zhulong. There's also a particularly horrifying one. Further, there was also the emergence of beasts from time to time, so it's really difficult to count their number. Tang Xiu nodded and asked again, what about Senior Duanmu? He has already entered the Himalayas with a large group to set up a blockade line, said Zhulong, come with us. I'll take you there. Zhulong, you settle Grandpa Zhuo first, said Tang Xiu. He's a local here, but he's also a relative of my Tang family who's like a brother of my grandfather's. After hearing Tang Xiu's words, Zhuo Zicheng felt extremely warm inside. But he waved and said, "Don't worry about me. Just do what you should do. Besides, you must guard the safety of the people, but you must pay attention to your own safety." Tang Xiu hesitated for a moment and then nodded. "Then please pay attention to your own safety too, Grandpa Zhuo. Tang Xiu, let these 5 children stay here too." Zhu Long interjected. "It's not safe inside. We have no extra manpower to protect them if those fierce beasts appear again." "No. They don't need protection. Let's just set off." Tang Xiu shook his head. Hearing his response made Zhu Long look somewhat helpless. He really had no idea why Tang Xiu brought 5 children who were perhaps less than 10 years old. After half an hour, the group had crossed a snowy peak and entered the depths of the mountain range. Soon after, a military tent appeared in Tang Xiu's line of sight. Moreover, over 100 ability users from the Special Abilities Bureau and a large number of soldiers in camouflage uniforms were stationed at the blockade line arranged near the military tent. "You're finally here, Tang Xiu." Duanmu Lin was not in the tent but was waiting outside for Tang Xiu. "I just arrived here." "So, what's the current situation, Senior Duanmu?" asked Tang Xiu. "Are those savage beasts rushing into the blockade line? I found something strange about them. They are like a fierce beast army, as if there are intelligent beasts commanding them." Duanmu Lin nodded and explained, "From the time we arrived here, there have been small-scale beast tides attacking us. Fortunately, some cultivators rushed to help us. Otherwise, we couldn't have stopped them just by the strength of the Special Abilities Bureau and the military alone. Low-rank and mid-rank fierce beasts only have low intelligence, but the high-rank ones have intelligence on par with humans," said Tang Xiu. "On top of these high-rank beasts, there are still superior rank beasts and monster beasts. Be it the superior rank or the monster beasts, all of them possess high intelligence and have the ability to control armies of fierce beasts. High-rank fierce beasts are already horrible by themselves. If this is a superior rank or a monster beast, that will spell big trouble," said Duanmu Lin in a surprise with contracted pupils. "I think the possibility of superior rank and monster beasts is rather slim," added Tang Xiu. "The biggest ominous beast should be a high-rank one. However, this is just a guess of mine, so I need to see it myself to be clear." "That's right. You told me that some cultivators are helping. Who are they?" "Some are from the occult sect and some others are Taoist and Buddhist cultivators, as well as some ancient martial art clans experts," answered Duanmu Lin. "In actuality, our country has already signed some secret pacts with these people. We have the right to summon them for help whenever the country faces a major crisis." "I see." Tang Xiu nodded and said, "Those who are righteous and have a spirit of justice will indeed care about their country. They will come forward in the event of a crisis." Tang Xiu. Suddenly, a shout came from afar. When Tang Xiu looked at the distance, he saw Miao Wenong, Xiao Mingjin, and Dao Master Zi rushing over lightning fast. However, he found that all 3 of them had been injured, especially Dao Master Zi, whose injuries were quite serious. "Take this medicinal pill." Tang Xiu took out 3 holy healing pills from his interspatial ring and handed them one each separately.